Welcome to Romans chapter 3 from Colorado.
Thank you, Winston. We are back in Colorado at Mimi and Poppy's house, and we are studying Romans chapter 3. So Paul is writing to the church in Rome. Now that church group consists of both the Jews and the Gentiles. That context is important because that's why this message is so important. You've got two groups, totally different backgrounds, that have come together to form this church. The one common thing is they believe that Jesus is the Messiah. However, their backgrounds really create some division, some separation within this church. You have got the Jews that have always believed that the law dictates everything. So they're allowed in the temples, they pray, they're pursuing their God, and they are doing whatever they can to abide by the laws. You've got the Gentiles that most didn't believe in the same God. They would make up their own gods, and they were never allowed in the temple. But they had this belief that if I'm a good person, that I'm sure God will show me mercy if there really is a God. So now you take these two different backgrounds, you bring them together with the one common bond being Jesus. And Paul is writing saying, you both are wrong. It has nothing to do with just being a law-abiding citizen. It has nothing to do with having good deeds. It has nothing to do with the rituals that you go through. It has everything to do with Jesus Christ dying on that cross and washing all of our sin away with the blood that he shed. You guys remember the story of the crucifixion. Jesus faced the most gruesome death on behalf of all of us. Jesus was the only person to ever walk this earth blameless, sin-free. None of us, no matter how hard we try, could ever claim that same thing. We will either have sinful behaviors, sinful actions. We will have sinful thoughts. Our hearts will be tainted with sin. But Jesus was perfect. Now, because of that, Jesus faces this unfair, gruesome death. You guys remember that as they were whipping him through his persecution, what did those whips? It wasn't a slash across the back. What was at the end of every single whip?
Nails and glass shards.
Yes. Shards of metal and glass, so that when that whip hit him, it grabbed a hold of his flesh, penetrating all the way into the muscle and ripping chunks of his body off of him. He then goes over and they just dig that crown of thorns into his skull. It doesn't penetrate just the skin, it penetrates his skull. They take 7-inch nails, they're stakes, and they drive them, hammer them through his hands and his feet. He never did a single thing wrong. And he faced all of that so that each one of us wouldn't be imprisoned to our own sin for the rest of our lives. Salvation. This whole chapter is about salvation. Julius, what's the definition of salvation?
To be delivered from sin.
To be delivered from sin. The death on the cross that day by Jesus Christ promised us salvation. It promised us forgiveness. It promised us an eternal life to be spent with our Maker that can only occur through Jesus Christ. Paul wants them to know, hey, just because we don't go out and we don't break the speed limit, just because we don't walk into a store and put something in our pockets and walk out the door, just because we don't get mad at somebody and commit murder, so we're abiding by the law, but that doesn't make us righteous. God knows every thought. He knows everything on your heart. We will never be perfect. It doesn't matter what rituals we have. It doesn't matter if we go to church every single Sunday. It doesn't matter. What matters is recognizing Jesus as the Messiah and receiving that gift of salvation so that sin doesn't hold us down the rest of our lives. What an incredible gift.
Yep.
Next week is going to be Romans chapter 4.